How's that look? Check, check. Yeah, I think that was good. There are two meetings running in here. There's a laptop meeting and then for the room infrastructure meeting, and that's why there are two screens visible. Do you have any background related to planning kind of stuff? No. No. Yeah, you guys don't need to have that. You can learn what's needed.
The other person who was selected is a lawyer who's like done like nuclear facilities and like have a lot of background in like
stuff
in like land use and
everything. Well, should be an education, I would think. Pretty interesting stuff. It is 7:01 according to my computer. Oh, we're not seeing all the screens over there. Let's see. Hello, can somebody let us know if you hear us?
I can hear you, Scott.
I can hear you.
Okay, great, because we've never been here in the schoolhouse before, so and we can't see. Oh no, we do see Brandy. That's interesting.
I'm the only one showing my video. The other participants have like aren't showing their themselves on video, so maybe that's why you can't see them.
Oh, I see. We don't even see an icon for them. Yeah. Yeah. If Rebecca, you could, and Judy, if you want to turn on your videos, that would be great. Because then we
Do you see Anita now to prove my theory, right?
Yes. Yes, she did.
Okay.
Now we've got everybody. All right. Awesome. I'm going to come back. Okay. So Ronnie and I are here at the big town center. Ooh. And looks like we have a quorum. We need 4 for a quorum, and I think we have it. So that's good. Lovey and Jay potentially. Lovey can't make it, and Jay also may not make it today. So, but I think we're good. So let's call the meeting to order. It's 7:02, and we'll do a roll call. Rebecca Flynn.
Present.
Anita Lotus.
Here.
Ronnie Krasinski. Scott Elrod, I'm here. Absent are Lovey Taylor and Jay Saleh. We also have Judy and Brandy with us. So great. Let's kick off the meeting. First up is any oral communications from anyone among us for things that are not on the agenda tonight. Are there any things people want to bring forward for that? If not, we can just go forward. Why don't we jump ahead? Introductions, presentations, and announcements. I don't think we have anything tonight for that. So I guess next up is the approval of the minutes from the December meeting, December 15th, 2022. Presumably people have had a chance to review the minutes. Are there any suggested corrections or additions to the minutes? If not, does somebody want to move to approve the minutes as written? Is there a motion?
I wasn't there, so I can't. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, Ronnie moves to approve them as written. I guess I can second. Can I second? I second the motion. So all those in favor of approving the minutes, please. We're supposed to do a roll call one at a time. So Rebecca,
Yes.
Anita,
I wasn't there, so I can't vote.
okay, so you're abstaining, I guess. I say yes. And what about you, Ronnie?
Yes.
Okay, so the minutes are approved from December 15th. All right, next we go on to updates from Brandy. Brandy.
All right. Hi, everyone. I wanted to start with a general update. I'm not sure if you all know, but Melvin, well, you probably have read it in the paper by now because it's been all over the papers, but Melvin Gaines, our assistant town manager, has been hired as the city manager for East Palo Alto. And so his last day will be next Friday. And we will be getting a new interim assistant town manager named Corey Stoker, who comes from Scotts Valley. So just letting you know about that transition in my immediate person that I report to. So going along with the updates, so starting with Cal Water, I know that Scott and Rebecca know, but there has been all of a sudden there was movement in the new year with Cal Water on the AMI pilot project. Cal Water has started sending out a letter to residents, letting them know that they are going to be restarting the installation of the smart water meters. Rebecca put together a great email I'm not sure if you've sent that out or not yet, Rebecca, but
I
Rebecca,
have, yes.
okay, so Rebecca put together a great email letting folks know what was coming. I am putting together a web page for the town website, and I will include the content of your email in the newsletter next week, Rebecca, if that sounds good to you. And then I know that Ronnie in his blurb included information about that as well. So that's exciting news. And then I think, once maybe someone on the committee has one, we can kind of look together at what the Eye on Water app can do for residents and start formulating some outreach plans for helping folks do that. And then working with Cal Water to maybe put together a webinar or something on that.
So is anybody already on Eye on Water besides me?
Is that what you use from the pilot project, Rebecca? Okay.
Yes.
Um,
I'm the only one who's been using the system. Judy, you don't use it?
I think I'm on it, but I haven't used it forever. I don't know if I could get back in if I tried.
Because I was just talking to Cal Water today. When you call their 800 number, it takes you to their central processing, whatever, customer support, which is not anywhere around us, probably down in Southern California. And they haven't even heard of Eye on Water. So it's kind of, it's going to present an issue for our residents who will inevitably have issues.
I'll try to sign in and circle back to you the next couple of days, Rebecca.
Because I contacted them today because mine has stopped working since December 29th. It's not uploading the data to Badger. Somehow Badger's not uploading the data to the web, to the application. So I wanted to find out what was going on. Cal Water didn't know. So they're going to get back to me to see why mine is not working. So we'll see.
I guess that maybe, I don't know. I mean, maybe we can do something, depending on if the committee is open to it, but maybe we can have like some general email list that we set up that folks could email, and then, to give you some privacy, but that we can refer them to people kind of locally that could help them with that, like a pool of people I mean, we could easily set up some kind of email address if you guys, you know, that could come to me and I could forward it out, or if you think that that's a good strategy with that, and I, you know, I will see, you know, when the town's meters are going to go on, then I could get on Ion Water and see that from the town's water meters too. So maybe I can see if they can get ours on sooner rather than later.
I mean, I think the key piece of information people probably need to know about is how to set up notifications
Okay.
and choosing, you know, how often or how fast they want to be notified. So,
I mean, and with that, you know, if we are able to take screenshots, we could easily put something together and put it up on the website, and refer people to that as well.
mhm.
How large of a program is this for Cal Water? Like, are they the only town, or are there like a bunch of cities that they're doing?
Ronnie, can you move that mic closer to you? These mics are like the bane of our existence in the council meetings.
Okay.
But can you repeat what you said?
Yeah, how large of a program is this for Cal Water? Like, are we the only town, or are there a bunch of cities that they're converting to the Badger meters, or what?
This is a pilot project for the Bear Gulch district, but right now they're just starting with Portola Valley, so it's really focused on us. And as far as I know, the only other place that they have installed them was somewhere in the Central Valley. It's been very difficult for them to get through the CPUC's ratepayer advocates process to be able to do this.
So Brandy, were you suggesting that there could be an email address that people in the town write to if they want to understand better how to use it, and that one of us or a number of us could field those questions given our knowledge of how it works? Is that the idea?
Yes, and or I could, you know, once we have like a little pool of experts, we could, you know, we could do that if that sounds like something that you think would be helpful. I mean, if our, you know, what's going to make this program successful with reducing water use is people using those notifications to understand that they have leaks. And so the more that we can do to help them do that, the more effective the program. And so, I mean, I can, you know, as much as my position will allow me to do it, I can field some of those once I understand how to do it. You know, we could have, maybe Rebecca could give us a training. We can put together some screenshots for people who can follow pictures or whatever. And then for folks who still need additional assistance, we could have, you know, they could email in and we could have folks reach back out to them and help them.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So yeah, would that be a town email address, portolavalley.net, or?
Yeah, I can just make an alias that goes to me. I mean, it could be whatever, you know, whatever, and it could come to me, and then I could feed those emails back out or answer them myself.
Okay, Judy?
I wanted to ask Brandy a question. Brandy, the 2 years that Cal Water spent in front of the regulating agency, did they got permission only for Bear Gulch, or did they get permission to do it through their system as they choose going forward?
No, the pilot project is specifically for Bear Gulch. So every time they request a rate increase, they have to request it for the specific district because it's like that rate increase is then allocated out to the number of customers in the district. And so so it is specific to this, but it was more like 8 years, Judy, not 2. Repeated attempts. So, I mean, maybe we can talk more about like specifics as far as the council, when we get down to the committee priorities, as far as this is, now that we know that this is started back up. But I think, you know, I mean, I don't know, we should come up, it doesn't matter what the email address is. I can make it anything because I'm sure we won't have any, you know, email address with this. So it could be, you know, smart or water meter help, or, you know, whatever you guys think, I'll make it up, and then we can go from there.
And leading into that, people will go to the sustainability webpage, and there'll be a reference there to how you set this up and how you do it. And the email to you will only be at the bottom of that. So they have to go through and try to figure it out before they get you, hopefully.
Yeah,
Cal Water said they were gonna be giving out information themselves about setting
Okay.
up on Ion Water. So that's probably where they're gonna find out first.
Right.
The idea, as far as I understand from Cal Water, is that folks will get a door hanger before, letting them know the installation is going to happen, and then they'll get a door hanger afterwards, telling them how to get onto Ion Water. And Cal Water is supposed to send me both of those once they have them. So my plan is to put those on the webpage. And initially, we'll have it up probably on the homepage, a link from there, so that like in the little banner section, so folks can find it more easily without digging through the website. But yeah, that would be the idea.
Did Cal Water give you any sense of the pace of which they're gonna be installing these, or?
They did not. I asked those questions. They did not, and they didn't want to commit to anything, especially with the challenges with the weather
Yeah,
recently. So they did not. But I will continue to check in and see, if I can understand how many there are being installed.
So we don't really know exactly what the timing is to have a really complete information package for people, right?
No,
It
I'm
sounds like-
guessing that they haven't done any more. I'm hoping that I'm going to keep pinging them so that I get those door hangers. But if anyone hears of anyone getting the door hangers, let me know, and then I'll be like, hey, the door hangers are going up, so I can get that. But I was kind of I guess happily surprised that the letter was going out, but there wasn't a ton of lead time before it did go out or started going out, apparently, since Rebecca, you know someone who already got one.
Yeah, we
yeah,
got, so,
You got one too, Judy?
No.
Or would you say no? Okay.
Scott, I think Scott said that.
Scott
yeah,
said that, okay.
we got one in the last week.
but no door hanger.
No door hanger, no addition, no information, just saying we'll be doing this. Basically.
And it came in the mail, or is it just dropped off?
That's a great question. I don't know. I didn't get the mail that day, so I don't know whether it was, I'm not sure whether it was a dropped off flyer or whether it was in the mail.
We got
And
something.
do
we
you
got
have-
ours in the mail.
Sorry, what?
Go ahead, Anita.
We got ours in the mail.
Okay.
And do either of you have a flume?
We have a nothing right now.
I have Flume and I haven't seen anything, any letters.
I guess when we get the door hangers, that'll trigger us to sort of put the whole information package together and get the website set up, right?
Yeah, and I'm working on the website right now. I will tell you, I'm working on about 4 different web pages right now, and I just finished all of the green building stuff. But yeah, I am working on that because it's timely, and again, like I'm so committed to making this as effective as possible. So.
And Scott and Anita, what neighborhoods do you live in?
Wyndham Drive.
PV Ranch.
Huh? And because Dave lives on Golden Oak, so totally different neighborhoods. Because before they had started kind of at the bottom of Westridge and then were kind of working their way up. So I don't know if they've changed their, or if they just sent the letter out to a lot of people. I don't know.
Okay.
So yeah, Brandy, if you do get in touch with them anytime soon, you might just ask them if there's a certain pattern to how they're installing them, or whatever, what the,
Okay.
or we have a sense of whether they're starting at one end or they're just, I don't know what.
Yeah, and maybe I'll just and I'll ask them to keep us posted on how many they're installing as well, and I'll ping again for the door hanger.
Door hanger and any information they're providing so that we can put it on the website.
Okay. So if it's okay, I'll move on to the next item, the Climate Action Plan 2030 launch. So I have been informed by the town manager that will actually be going at the March 8th meeting. And I would say that that's a moving target, given that we have a brand new council. So hopefully March 8th. And our intern Hala and I met with the town attorney last week to understand the different ways that a climate action plan can be adopted. And we are meeting with a consulting firm next week to understand what cities have done recently in adopting their climate action plan. So I just briefly, you can adopt a climate action plan that's CEQA qualified that can then be used later for developments. So it's kind of like a guiding document like the general plan is, or you can just, it's a legal document like the general plan is, or you can adopt it as a guiding document, and that kind of has less teeth. And so it's possible, we're going to see what other cities have done lately. It takes much longer to adopt it as a CEQA qualified climate action plan because you have to do an environmental impact report, but it ends up being kind of a higher quality document. So we're investigating these options for adopting it. It might be that we start it as a guiding document, and then if we do a general plan update in the future, then we ask that it becomes a CEQA qualified document as part of that process. But it's something that we're investigating now with the consultant and the town attorney so that when we take it to the council, we can kind of give them these two ways of adopting it and get their input on how to move forward. And one of what I understand from the town attorney is, some environmental issues can be mitigated more at a community-wide level than at an individual project level. And so that can be an advantage of having a CEQA qualified document. So stay tuned for more on that, but yet making progress with that. We are still waiting for some tools to be developed by the consulting firm, and I will check in with them again next week. We keep pinging them, but our timeline is to launch it March 8th, but Jeremy has asked when I think we'll finish the endeavor, and I want to make sure we have the tools in our hands or our inboxes before we give a deadline as to when we think, we can finish the effort.
So Brandy, when you say you're launching it, what exactly do you mean by that?
So basically, like, Jeremy wanted to make sure that the council was the starting point of the development of the climate action plan. And so we're launching the development effort. So we're going to be reviewing the greenhouse gas emissions inventory, the tools for evaluating what measures might be included, measures and actions would be included in the plan, what the process is going to be, what a climate action plan is, how we're going to do outreach to the community, all of that, and get their feedback. And then we'll bring it back to the committee and first meet with the subcommittee and then the whole committee. So it's like the effort is we're launching the development effort at the council meeting. So it starts with them and they're the first ones to weigh in.
Is there a budget associated with this? Pay the consultants and whatnot?
No, there is not a budget at this time associated with it. The consultants are paid for through through San Mateo County Energy Watch. So we don't have to pay for the consultants. That's all money that's regional money that we're making use of. And Judy, since you're here, one question that Jeremy asked when we had him reviewing our outreach plan was what other committees we might engage with this. And when I was reviewing this with the intern, we thought that it probably depends on what measures we think are going to be in the plan. And so I could see us engaging, conservation if there's measures around habitat and wildfire prevention that has to do with habitat. And so I might reach out to, to conservation once we have like the big list of potential measures to see how we would engage them. And then the same with emergency preparedness, if there's things around battery storage that have to do with those co-benefits between sustainability and emergency preparedness.
Right. Yeah.
So, okay. So
Those are the two that spring to mind.
Yeah. And it might be, it might be that more come up, but that's what I was going to respond to Jeremy at this point, is that this is what we're thinking, but we'll know further down the road, and then we'll weigh in with those committees.
Sounds like it would be really important value context for our committee to be there, to be present if we can at the town council meeting when it gets unveiled. So definitely want to, I definitely would want to do that. I think Jay would, and maybe some of the rest of us too.
Yes, so I mean, tentatively scheduled for March 8th, and if I hear differently, I'll let you know, Scott, so you can let the committee know, but that's the plan right now.
Okay.
And let's see. Okay, so moving on to SB 1383. So this, just a couple of updates here. We are working with Green Waste and the town attorney. I met with them a few times since the December meeting, the December Sustainability Committee meeting, to understand how to roll out the mandatory subscription to service to residential, and also the yard trimming subscription to commercial. And so we're strategizing around that, and how with commercial we're planning site visits so we can help them balance their waste. So if they're going to get a yard trimmings bin, they can reduce the size of their mixed compostables bin to reduce the cost of their service. Rather than increasing it, it kind of levels it out, but still results in the highest use waste. I had mentioned last time that we were doing this, we were working on reducing the high procurement target for compost and mulch. And it turned out that by plugging in our energy use and our fuel use, that it actually increased our target. So we will not be using that spreadsheet that CalRecycle gave. Hopefully they never listen to this recording. But yeah, so that was shocking to me that did not reduce our procurement target. So now we will be further exploring using the MWELO to meet that compost and mulch procurement target. And that I've mentioned that before, I think, where the most of the compost and mulch that's used in town is used in these development projects where they move a lot of dirt and then have to put a lot of dirt back in. That's my understanding, at least from the public works director. So using that would kind of put the product in the place where it's used the most already. I will mention too that Web Ranch, who has an organic compost product, they were not really aware of the SB 1383. So we had reached out to them late last year to see if they had SB 1383 certified products, and they didn't at the time, but they are working with CalRecycle to get certified. So I think that that's a huge win, because that means that we could get that product more locally and reduce the emissions from having it trucked here from further outside of town to meet that requirement. What else with SB 1383? I think that's it. That's I will be doing another web page for that as an interface for both residential, commercial, and restaurants who are required to do edible food recovery. And the edible food recovery portion of that bill is, as you may remember, being handled by a regional effort where the county does outreach and enforcement. So if there's no questions about that, I will move on to the green building amendments. So I worked with the building official and the planning department to update all of the web pages on the planning department website and make all of the amendments to the building code that had to do with excuse me, the green building amendments and the WUI amendments very clear. So if you go to any of those pages, the resources, ordinances, they all say building code 2022, and then they have all of the associated documents. So they're very clearly identifiable. There's an FAQ that we've made kind of into this living document, and waiting to hear from planning to see if they need any additional outreach materials. I've also been looking at other cities' web pages as examples so that we can put the rebates for electrification all in one place to start giving residents resources for that. So that's another one of the web pages I'm developing. And then I sent to Scott a webinar that's happening next week. We've heard Marianne discuss them. And I think that they might have spoken with this once, but I'm linking on the group that did it, but Scott, I can look it up. I'll look it up while we're talking. But anyway, there is a webinar next week with these two people who did an evaluation of electrifying 10 homes, and it's
Oh, yeah.
more.
Josie Gayard and, is that right?
Tom
Yes.
Kabat. Yeah.
Yes. So sorry, I was totally blanking on their names, but they have like a morning webinar next week. At the end, there's Q&A, but it's geared for industry, or like industry experts and organizations that are looking at electrification. But I thought it might be of interest to some of you, since we're working on these efforts. I'm registered to attend. I've seen preliminary presentations on the results of this study, like that happened, were very like 10 or 15 minute presentations. So I'm very curious to hear a more lengthy presentation on this. So
I did distribute it. I did pass it out to everybody in the committee.
okay, awesome. And then nothing to report on the disposable foodware ordinance. I'll be, visiting that probably in the next month or so. So that's my update. Any questions from anybody?
Oh, thank you. That's good. Okay, so I guess we can then move on to item B. I think the intent of having the priorities in this old business list is so that we can touch on them as needed, not that we will touch on them every time. I think at the last meeting, you did go through them. I wasn't there, but you went through them, and my reading of the minutes is that you validated that these are the right priorities for the committee, and then added in some additional texture. Is that a decent summary of what transpired last time? Basically, this is the right list. In other words, is what I'm asking.
I thought there was also some talk about doing some sort of videos or movies or something.
Okay, yeah. So there's additive. I guess there's additive things, but so maybe okay, maybe that question is not one that's easy to answer unless we have the notes in front of us. I guess, okay, so let me pose it a different way. Is there anything that we should revisit today related to the priorities, or do people feel that the work that was done last meeting was sufficient for a while?
Is there any requirement to coordinate with the town council's schedule?
Well, there's a requirement. Yeah, the reason for having gone through the priorities last time was precisely because there is this town council meeting where all the committees report out on priorities that they'd like to see the town undertake, and especially those that have a budgetary impact. And so we do have that list from the minutes, and I was going to ask that we go through that again. So maybe that will serve, and that'll be our discussion of priorities basically for today.
Mhm.
Right, you said, are you saying we're going to go?
We will go through that, yeah, because that's another item. I mean,
That's another.
that's a separate item, yeah, on the agenda. So is to talk about that, the inputs to that January meeting. So,
Right. Yeah, I guess. So I don't know if it goes here or there, but yeah, I think there was some discussion about, well, maybe related to En-ROADS, they're like maybe having hosting something there, and maybe
Mhm.
having like a giveaway, and like so using some budget to like
okay,
buy things to give away.
right.
So I guess, sorry, I don't know if we talk about that now or in the other.
Well, well, let's, yeah, we'll go over the full list of things to be presented to the town council. So that's in there, I think.
Okay.
So. Okay, so the next item is to review the ongoing effort on these PSAs. Been a lot of activity, a lot of things going out in just the last week. And so, Ronnie, your piece has gone out. I'm curious, have you gotten any feedback? Was there?
Not a lot, actually. Heard from maybe one or two, and I guess there was a couple follow-ups on the PV forum. But not too many, so I don't know. Maybe everyone went out and bought the gadgets. But
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Okay. And so I think the next thing up, I think, was to do another greenhouse gases piece of some sort. And Anita, I think you're the person for the month of February.
So, we wrote up the
The induction.
announcement on it for the induction.
Okay.
So that's with me right now.
Right.
And I started reviewing it, and I feel that we kind of need to get ahead of the firestorm that's happening out in the country about gas stoves.
Exactly.
So my recommendation, I started working on it and I got pulled away a couple other things, but my recommendations are just add a couple sentences about this new study that links gas stove use with children's asthma. You know, I don't know. It's kind of up to everybody whether you feel that we should be putting something in there, because there was such a firestorm of Luddites on the PV forum, you know, that don't seem to be realized that despite having a deluge for the past, with the 9 atmospheric rivers we had for the past 3 weeks, that somehow climate change is not affecting us. So I think we just need to keep pushing this, that, you know, it's dangerous to be burning methane in your house and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about the study in childhood asthma, and we can also, I don't know if you want to reference San Bruno and the tragedy there that happened because gas lines, and, you know, it's a good thing to, you know.
And there's even a new, this gets probably not part of the induction thing, but there's a new a new application that just came out. I think it was NASA that actually identifies where there's huge methane leaks in the country and in the world. So it was an interesting thing. It shows it. But I mean, that's not part of the induction cooktop, but, you know, just, I think if whoever's writing another PSA, I think we need to touch on, why do you need to electrify? What are the benefits?
I thought one of the more interesting pushbacks that came, most of the pushback to date I've seen has been, you know, come on, folks, get with it. But the recent one after the storms, the electricity was the idea of resiliency. And people who were finding that if they have some gas, they've got a little more resiliency than they did without it. That's a, you know, a complex issue and a tougher one to address, I think. I think the ones where they just don't want to acknowledge it's dangerous, you can just keep hammering away that it's dangerous and unhealthy. But the resilience issue is a tougher issue to resolve.
That goes back to the batteries, and it goes back to the reality. If we have a monster earthquake, guess what's going to get ruptured?
Yeah.
So they're not going to have gas line. Guess what's going to get repaired faster? The electrical line. So
I sent, when we were discussing this over email, I think it was you, Rebecca, and Scott and I referenced a new product that's coming out. The induction stove has a built-in battery, you know, so a built-in backup battery. So maybe we could say that, yes, that the problem of power loss is recognized, and yes, gas is a nice alternative to that when it happens. But as time goes on, the newer stoves are going to have that built in, and you know, who knows what it's going to be like and how long it's going to last and all. But just to recognize that, yes, we understand it can be an issue, and yes, it's nice to have that backup in these emergencies, but the electric induction stoves will have that too.
Yeah.
We can put it.
On that,
it's somewhere in that email chain, that reference, but how
I
do
think
you?
it'd be useful for us to take a look at that a little more closely, because I think the power requirement for an induction cooktop is such that, you know, the size of a battery to make that thing run for a few hours is really substantial. So
Sure.
I can imagine, you know, 30 minutes of runtime for a few cups of tea, but I mean, like, cooking really cooking for a couple days, it's hard to picture. So I think it'd be good to maybe just take a look at that and just see whether the numbers make sense.
How do you want, what kind of assignment is this for me? How do you want me to, is this the topic you?
Oh, I see. Yeah, it can be. Yeah, I mean, sure. And since we're going to continue refining the induction cooktop one, maybe that is the piece that goes out. And it could be this month or next month. I don't think it's necessarily February, but so sure. So I don't know. I'm happy to take a look at the the arguments around the battery backup. I don't know, what were you going to say something?
I was just gonna say, I think we should be kind of cautious about the asthma thing. I mean, it seems controversial, and it seems, I mean, I don't know how solid of a.
No, I
study
agree.
it was.
It's a data point, but it's not I don't think it's, I don't think it's a peer reviewed.
Yeah,
I don't think that's gonna get a lot of
that we can hang
pushback, I think, and then I don't know, I think it maybe
Agreed.
unnecessarily creates like,
Turn people off.
yeah, basically makes people think that they're against this thing when they might not be otherwise.
Yeah, I sort of felt that these loaner items are ones where people can, it's to try it out, right? They've heard about it, they're interested, they want to try it out, they try it out. But that in that very piece where we're telling them now we've got this loaner available, that we maybe don't want to be in that same piece, hitting them over the head with, and what you're doing today is unsafe. And, I just think,
And people are very resistant to that because, like, many of us have like grown up with gas stoves, and we just don't think that.
we seem to be healthy enough.
Yeah.
So it could, I
Well,
mean,
part of it comes down to whether or not you're using your hood or opening a window while you're
Yeah.
while you're using it.
so. is there-
It just might, I was just looking it up real quickly, but it might be worth including the rebates that are out there. So Bayron has a $750 cashback rebate on an induction range or cooktop upgrade. And then I was just trying to see if Peninsula Clean Energy did, but it might be worth including that for folks who are, since we're trying to get them to move to that, and just saying like, here's a rebate that you might, if you do choose to move. And then I think, we're hoping that more rebates will be available once they decide what they're going to do with the Inflation Reduction Act funds.
This is an idea, maybe something about the process of actually converting. I mean, I'm like sort of interested, but I actually don't know like how to approach it, where to start. Like, okay, I need to talk to an electrician, like figure out how we'll get the right power there, and then like figure out the right unit that's going to be able to replace my gas range that I currently have. Which contractor should I talk to, in which order? I don't know if there's something.
I wonder if that could be, I think the loaner is, it's its own thing. And maybe there's another piece which is along the lines of, our own experience of having done these things. And so maybe there's one of us or somebody we know who's actually installed an induction cooktop and could write that sort of, here's what it was like, here's how we went about it. Could that be a separate item?
I would be interested in that. I'm interested in reading that.
I can also ask the building official if he has input, like if he has experience on this as well, like I think that a gas stove normally has a plug, like electricity to it too, for the ignition, but I don't know if it's the same level, like if it's 120 versus
Normally
220.
120, I think.
Yeah, so, and then I don't know if an induction stove takes 120 or 220, so I can just ask, he's usually really good about giving that kind of info, so I'll just see what he says as well.
That would be great. I think they do take 220. I think I heard today that that's one of the issues is you have to upgrade your electricity. On the other hand, doesn't a normal electric stove take 220?
A normal electric stove would definitely, yeah, it would, if you have electric stove, then you're already wired for this thing.
Right.
Yeah.
This
but-
is an obvious upgrade for that because of the efficiency and speed.
Right.
Right, but I mean, the main target.
Brandy asked, do you have to have a plumber out to cap off the gas line? Because I
Oh.
think that might be an additional step and expense.
Okay, good point.
So it sounds like we may, Anita, you may work some additional things into the piece and then we'll release it in another week or two. Is that?
Yes, you
Or-
were you gonna send it out on PV form when it gets finalized?
Yeah, I think Rebecca would do that once it's done. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I
So that
have-
would mean that we'll have an just sort of the basic induction cooktop with, including the information about rebates. And then we'll have some other write-up that's more about, in the future, about how to convert to an induction cooktop. And then we also need still some type of write-up at some point, why go electric,
Mhm.
which is the more controversial one.
Right.
Ronnie, were we going to, I don't know if you guys have sent this, but were you going to ask that your write-up be included in the town newsletter? I know Carrie was out this week, Wednesday to Friday, but if you wanted to do that, I mean, it's not gonna, if you CC me, I can, it doesn't have to go through an extensive approval, is what I'm saying.
But the only thing is that it, links to all these products, so. I mean,
Maybe, what I'll do is I will, can you just send me the final version and I'll just send it to the town attorney and see if the disclaimer is good enough for it to be included in the newsletter? I mean, if it's okay to be included with all of those links with the disclaimer,
sure.
see what she says. I mean, it's worth trying.
No, that's great. Yeah, no, I think we had just, we haven't yet really gone down the path of doing this through the newsletter just because the more recent ones were, product heavy and also personal experience heavy. And they seemed like maybe it'd be easier to do it from, not through the town. But if Ronnie's could go through the town, then that would be great. We should just do it there too.
We can at least ask, I mean, and maybe she'll tweak the disclaimer or maybe she'll say no, I don't know. So, but at least if you send me the final version or if, I can get it off the forum too, I'll send it to her and just see what she says.
We could also just include a little paragraph saying, did you catch the latest sustainability committee's write-up about new tech or something, and then have a link to it and post it on the website. If for some reason they didn't want all those products going out.
On the PV Forum website, Rebecca, or on the
No, on the town website.
on the town website? Okay. Let me ask her and we'll figure it out.
But I think I wanted to circle back just to the induction cooktop. So this first piece that Anita's going to refine, what is in and what's not in, I guess. It sounds like asthma's not in. I mean, there was some, we didn't really vote on that. How do you feel, Rebecca, if we don't include the asthma piece in it?
Personally, I think we should put at least something about toxic byproducts. It may already be in there. I don't remember, but
Yeah.
we don't have to reference that particular study, but we could just say toxic byproducts because there's
Yeah,
no controversy about that.
Yeah, we could do that.
And then, I started kind of working a little bit on it and it's sort of, I feel like we need to celebrate the fact that we're launching it. So that's there's just some minor things to start the thing out, and it's like an announcement, it's a launch so that people are
Mhm.
positive about this, this new new option that they can try out. So it's a service. It's not a controversy. So
Yeah, so the focus would be, yay, we have this, you can try it out because it's a new cool thing.
See what
Yeah.
it's all about.
And
yeah, it
isn't-
boils water, within a minute or whatever, it just is a lot of convenience. It cleans quickly, whatever, but
Yeah, technologically, it's a wonderful thing. And then somehow reference the rebates. Figure out how to
Yeah,
how to link to somewhere where you can find the information on how to
yeah.
lower your
So
costs.
it's all positive, it's all a positive story, I guess. And then another one, I guess, have any of us installed an induction cooktop personally in our homes?
I have one.
Uh-huh. Do
But
you,
I love it, but I never had gas, so it was relatively easy for me just to switch out the electric thing I had and pop in that one instead. So I'm not a good case study if you have, because I never had gas in the kitchen.
did Jay have gas and switch to electric? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
So maybe we need to find somebody who's really gone through the experience, and then maybe they could work with you, Anita, on a second piece that's about how that process goes.
When we took the electrification tour back in the fall, there were several people who were real advocates for that cooktop. They just absolutely loved it when they switched out to it. I can say, I know Rebecca, or not Rebecca, what is her name? She works for the Almanac. She's the sustainability editor. Oh gosh, name's escaping me. Anyway, at her home, she had one that she really was in love with. So I could try to find my notes from that and see if I can contact some people to get.
Mhm. Sure,
testimony.
yeah. That'd be great. All right, public service
Yeah.
announcements.
Did you finish your series on the public?
I did, yeah. I mean, the big thing that's missing in the series that I did is, well, what's the impact, right? And so it proves to be really challenging to because to take the next month of data and say, oh, it got better, right? Because everything's changing every day, right? Less sun, more sun, temperature's different outside, and so I actually did make a model for the sort of the way the house responds to outside temperature and sun and solar load. And I think with a few months of data, I might be able to say, oh yeah, and so these particular measures help by this amount. But it's not easy. It's really not easy at all. And so it's not like the electric bill is going to, because of the LED lighting, is going to drop, 30%. And so, but I need a little more time. So there's more time to just figure out whether what was done really made a difference. And then the big thing was that I did get the company that did the airflow measurements for us to agree, because I mentioned them liberally in the piece that I wrote. And so they're signed up to do it again at our house for free once we install a new heat pump, air conditioner, furnace, and new ductwork. So the ductwork was a big leaky problem.
Oh, so you haven't done the heat pump yet?
Haven't done the heat pump, haven't done the new
Okay.
ductwork.
'Cause I
And
was
so,
waiting for that post.
yeah, right. I suggested I might write that, but it's like, I would just be writing it theoretically. It wouldn't be about having done it.
Yeah.
The problem is though, that for us, it may not happen for another year. I mean, I'm not sure when we're going to do it because we've got some other stuff going too. So, yeah. I mean, do you think it's worth writing a heat pump one that's not grounded in having actually done it?
My impression was you had done it, so.
No.
But yeah, maybe not.
Not yet.
Um,
Okay.
And you'll probably have to wait a full year to get a full year's worth of data to be able to compare, this January to last January.
Absolutely. Yeah. It takes months of data to get enough statistically significant stuff. And I mean, the duct test would be easy, but then we know that ours leaks and it's old. And so they put in the new duct work and it's going to be better. So, but yeah, so.
Yeah, I actually just got a heat pump system installed, but I'm also still, trying to figure it out and
Uh-huh.
understand that, how efficient it's going to be and stuff.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, so related to the PSAs that you wrote is the Home Intel Energy Audit Tool. And what I discerned from the minutes was that there was an interest in maybe having them speak to this group, and maybe make more information about that product available to the community. And I just wondered, is there anything to discuss today along those lines?
Yeah, I don't know if you remember in our email exchange with, I'm forgetting his name, the Home Intel representative, he had kind of offered that,
Yeah,
and I mentioned that. But then he also offered to like send some collateral for my newsletter posting, but
you never
he
did.
promised twice and he never did.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know. We're, I guess, not currently like in touch with him on it, but we could try to get back in touch. And I think Brandy knows him as well. And yeah, go ahead.
I know his boss better, but that's probably not the right avenue. But I can, I think his name is James. I can't, am I remembering? I'll add it to my to-do list to I'll reach out to him and just see what he says. But that would be, I think, I think in mentioning it in your newsletter, Ronnie, and then if we go forward and doing something else, we're sort of like, we're actually like getting that fostering sustainable behavior like path where you like mention, you like introduce it small and then you go on. So I mean that would be good. But perhaps he has like stuff we could put on the website too and all of that. But I will reach out to him. He was supposed to send collateral and like media stuff. Is that like
Wait,
electronic?
just sent collateral that didn't end up happening. I mean, it's fine. But yeah, he had mentioned that he hadn't talked to us for a while. I think so. He mentioned that he knew you and had worked with us before, and maybe it'd be like a good time to, I don't know, come and talk to us again or something like that.
Okay. Do you want me to? Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Judy.
Since there are a number of different companies that do home energy audits, do we run into any kind of an issue with, pushing Home Intel over the others? Is that
This one isn't an audit. This one is like an online virtual thing, like so it only
oh,
goes.
it's all virtual. Okay.
Yeah.
But Judy, it's the one that's sponsored by PG&E now. So they've now gone
Got
on
it.
to be, so it's free through PG&E. So that because they're the utility, there's no issue with that. But it remind me, he hasn't come and spoken to the committee yet to show the program or anything, right? Has he?
Only the original one that evolved before
Okay.
it went to PG&E. But I mean,
Okay.
I think it's got the same thing. Maybe the entrance is a little different because you're going through PG&E, but the rest of it with all the leaks, is he still calling them leaks even though they're energy leaks versus water leaks? Ronnie, did you do it? Did you remember
Yeah,
it being an energy leak?
I think that term was used. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a little awkward, but that's what they came up with. So
Would
and
you
I
want?
think they've eliminated the water stuff, right? There was no, that he wasn't asking, you weren't asked about lawns and.
I don't think
That
so.
was only created for us, I think. And when I did ask Steve Schmidt, who is the original developer and owner of the company, if we could still do that, and he said no. But maybe once we get smart water meters installed, he'll change his mind. But would you all be interested in having James come and talk to us for 10 or 15 minutes at the next meeting, if that was an option, and telling us what he could do and how we could collaborate?
Yeah.
Sure, and if he has some data for Portola Valley,
Yeah.
that would be great.
I'll just read real quick what he wrote. He said, it's been about 4 years since I worked some with Brandy I don't know how to pronounce her name, DeGarmo?
Like Bordeaux, DeGarmo.
To do some earlier outreach. So it is well past time that we do some more info sharing with the community about our free energy analysis and saving program. We have also since then added a lot of electrification analysis to help people plan to electrify their homes.
That's great, because I had contacted Steve last year when I still get notifications occasionally from having done this 10 years ago or whenever. And one of the notifications recommended that I get an on-demand gas heater. I always sent a note back, no, please update this. So I guess they have.
Well, so I did that one 8 or 10 years ago also, when we were doing them through sustainability and Steve, and I get the occasional report. And a lot of my data in needs to be changed, and I've never been able to change it. You know, we did an addition. I got some heat pump things. We redid our furnace, and so it's operating off the old data with the wrong square footage, et cetera. So it's really just garbage in, garbage out, which is a huge flaw in it. You need to be able to easily change things.
I think if you contact them about your password, they can get you back into it somehow, so you can run through it and update it if you so wish, I think.
Would we want to ask if he could come to our next meeting? Is that, I think we have probably time for it if we wanted to do that as a small segment at the next meeting. Would you mind asking him that, Brandy?
I'll ask. Yeah, I would not mind at all. And what are you thinking, like 10 or 15 minutes? Does that sound good, or?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
Max, yes, Max, yes.
Yes.
Because the last time I remember, they came with like a PowerPoint that was about an hour long or something. I don't know. It was long.
All right. Well, I think we can move forward. So the next item is to finalize our inputs for the committee workshop that's going to take place in January, shortly, actually. So I'll be going to that, and I'll be presenting to the town council what our priorities are for the year, and especially important to them, I think, is anything that has a budgetary implication or any activities where we want them to do something to step up to a new thing. So I was just going to put this in a share mode. If I could, I was going to share just what was in the minutes. And just 1 second. Can you see that? So this is what is in the minutes from after you had sort of gone through our priority list and then thought about what we would be telling the town council are our priorities. And I guess it'd be helpful for me to go through this and just think about, is there any ask for the town council, either that they do something to support us, to carry the flag for us, or that there's some significant budgetary implication. So we have a budget of, whatever, $10,000. And so if it's small items, then we probably don't need to make a special note of it in this meeting. But if there's anything that stands out, we should talk about it. So community education, continuing that. Anything for the town council to do or spend money on?
No, I don't think so.
No, smart water education. Are we thinking we might want to do a flyer to the entire town, or are we going to just limit it to, email, PV forum kinds of stuff?
I might suggest doing some type of card, mailed card, but not until they're all installed, just to kind of give tips about setting up notifications and what to do when you discover you have a leak and that sort of thing. And just to remind people that they now have a new meter or something along those lines. So maybe that would be something, but I don't know if it would fall into, I guess it would fall into next year's budget. So after July, so probably, maybe.
This fiscal year. So, I mean, I can tell people that we're thinking about doing that, but I don't think it's not an ask. And it's also probably several $1,000s. I mean, to do that.
Yes, it would be.
So to print it and stuff. Okay. Climate action plan, we're really looking forward to being involved in that. I'm not sure there's anything more to say there. I don't know whether our committee, there's a lot of controversy around the electrification, or there was, I don't know whether that's died down, but, and it is being adopted, it is adopted, right? And so is there anything for our committee to be doing with regard to education around the,
It's a little confusing how this is written existing building stock. Oh, electric. So is it referencing electrification ordinances for the existing buildings? Or, okay.
I think so. Is that what it means?
That's
Well, the-
that's my sense of what it means, but I think you might you might want to like reframe it so it doesn't mention specifically ordinances. You might want to reframe it like look for opportunities for electrification in existing buildings, because it could be like the ordinance that went in this last round addresses like pre-electrification, and after that it's going to an ordinance for electrification would be more aggressive, like a burnout ordinance. But I think as the committee, like your biggest avenue to get folks to do this is going to be, you know, convincing them that it's, or showing them, having these demos, you know, having webinars, that sort of thing, versus an ordinance. But as part of this, you could, like, an ordinance could come out of that priority, but you're coming at it from a different angle where you've made it more broad.
But it sounds like this plan, educate, get the community on board and promote is the sort of thing you're describing, right? That's.
Yeah, and I don't know where that, I don't now remember where that exact wording came from, but I would just, yeah, I think that framing it as opportunities, because an ordinance could be an opportunity, but if you just say ordinance, then you're kind of ruling out everything else.
Yep.
I have kind of two wild ideas,
Right.
and take them or leave them, but we have a commercial gas stove in the community hall, and I've always thought that would be that's a great opportunity for electrification. We're looking as part of our research with turning the town center into a microgrid, into electrifying everything. It you know, since we're talking about having an experience with being able to write about an experience in doing this, it could be that the committee encourages the town council to transition that gas stove into an induction stove. And so we get a better understanding of what that takes, but also then it could be used as a demo. I mean, we could do stuff like having, you know, Laura Steck, the chef, come and use it and show it. And, you know, people would, when people rent it, they would use it. So
Great idea. I think it's a wonderful idea, and we could really highlight not just it and how it works and everything, but also the process of doing it. That would be, and so that is the stove where? What is it?
it's they're in the community hall, kind of at the very edge. There's a galley kitchen, and there's a industrial stove in there. I mean, it's like a stove that would be in a house in Portola Valley. It's not like, you know, French Laundry or anything, but it would be a good it would be a fine demonstration of how to do that.
Yeah.
I think that's great. It would be fascinating. Yeah, just have a little, a little video, you know, 30 seconds on day one, 30 seconds on, you know, the next day, 30, you know, and it goes through all the steps, you know, capping off the gas pipe, you know, choosing the thing, the size, just all the, all the things you have to think about as you do it. That would be a wonderful educational tool.
It's a great
The
idea.
panel, if our panel, you know, in the community hall can accommodate it, like all of that. Okay, so that's wild idea number one. Wild idea number two, I don't have the logistics down, but I want to plant the seed. So In a meeting that I was in last week, with some of my counterparts, they were talking about how, I forget who it is now. Maybe it's in Sonoma County, but there's some entity that offers gas water heater loaners for when someone's gas water heater goes out, that they can have a loaner water heater while they sort out how to get a heat pump water heater installed.
Yeah, great idea. So how to get a heat pump water heater installed.
That's
Yes.
a good idea, because that the people typically wait to get a new water heater specifically when there's breaks, and then it's too late to plan for a heat pump. That would be
Right, yeah. The Cabot and Gaillard really were emphasizing about getting prepared now as your water heater gets towards its end of life. So that means putting in that 220 or whatever is necessary.
So this is
So-
for people who haven't done that, but who want to just for a month or whatever it takes to get the electrical stuff done, have something they can just bolt in. I wonder
But how
whether,
easy is it to,
yeah, they're all different sizes and shapes and stuff.
I'm just thinking the plumbing alone, just to do all that copper piping, unless they've got some other way of hooking into the old copper piping. I mean, most of the expenses, the plumber. So I'm
Yeah,
wondering how practical.
So
not
it
like-
could just be that you explore it, and I was trying to think through like who in the heck would have these water heaters to loan, but it could be, I mean, what if we did some kind of like, I think it's probably too big for the library, but it's possible that maybe we could have some collaboration with PV Hardware, where if we purchased these water heaters from them, they would have them as loaners, or I don't know. I don't know the logistics of it, and I will try and find out which entity it was that was doing this, but I think that this might be worth the committee exploring, and putting some funds, asking for some funds from the council to,
Yeah. I think to explore it, absolutely. Whether it's really feasible, given the range of water heater shapes and sizes, and the cost, as people said, of the plumber. to
Yeah, I
do
definitely
any-
need to talk to plumbers and see what's involved with installing a temporary hot water heater when someone's hot water heater fails, because I feel that it's the full cost. You're gonna do that, and then you're gonna take it out and incur
You're
the
gonna-
same
yeah.
full cost in addition to the electrical.
Well, might it be partly underwritten by the folks who put in the heat pump ones? So
Yeah, I
that,
wonder
you know,
Exactly. If the
while
heat-
you're waiting for your heat pump, here, we'll loan you this.
Yeah.
And discount it.
particularly if there are some companies that are really emphasizing the heat pump water heater, and this would be their way to grow market share.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Um,
know somebody who just did a heat pump water heater, and I can ask him. He sent me the name of the company that did it, and he had a great experience, and I can ask him for that
Oh,
name. and
Great,
call them.
yeah. we could-
Oh, great, yeah.
They would loan.
Let's-
I have a question though about both of these. I think they're great ideas. Is there a provision under the Inflation Reduction Act for commercial, town government, for rebates for entities like ours to get, something similar or the same that individual homeowners can get? Because it'd be great to go through that process too, and then we could model, we applied for this rebate and we got this much off of, the total cost for each of these two things. I think both of these would be great to me.
The short answer, Anita, is that there will likely be government programs for electrification, and there will likely be residential ones. They probably won't look the same, but we don't know yet. Like they're still sorting it out. I'm getting the emails. I haven't gotten them in January, but in December I was getting emails, I think, from the EPA asking for input on what they were going to do with the money. So they definitely haven't sorted it all out yet. But yeah, there will be. I am keeping a close eye on what's happening, and every time I see something come through my email with information on this, I'm going to it. Partly because I want to get the heater replaced in my own home, which is from 1986 and is costing an exorbitant amount. But you know, for all the other reasons too. But
And does Town Center, does it have gas water heaters? Is that how it heats the water for the bathrooms?
well, Rebecca, the way that the town center has a very the short answer is there is a dual boiler system that heats the town center. The library and town hall have radiant heating, and there's a boiler that heats the domestic hot water and the radiant heating. In the community hall, there's just a boiler that heats the domestic hot water. It has forced air heating.
I see. Sounds like
So-
my system at home, which is impossible to get repaired.
And we're also looking, those are at the end of their life. So I'm pursuing, there's like 3 or 4 different programs for government, and I'm looking into all of those programs with Howard to see what we could do about that. Again, pursuing electrification.
Okay, I guess the demo units, that do, I mean, I think it's good for us to describe the things that we have done, and I guess we'll just suggest that there's more to do, and without getting too specific about which items are next, because unless people felt there was a clear direction for that in the last meeting. But any of these things could cost, you know, this actually e-bikes, you know, and could be significant.
So interestingly enough, I just cleared the wait list for the Switch bike, but you had to jump on it quickly. And it's a really interesting technology. It runs about $650, and it's a gadget. It's I don't know what it is, sort of like the battery pack that you attach to your existing bicycle. And then they provide you the wheel that's sized for your bicycle. So you just flip out your wheel, and then there's some connectors you have to do, and then your bike is electric. And so it's not nearly as expensive as a typical e-bike, which seems to be around $2,000 or $3,000. And it works with most types of bikes, they said. So it's kind of an interesting thing. I can get back on the wait list if it's something we want to pursue. But I can send around the email that I got about it if people want to look into it.
Please do. And there's just a long waiting list. Is that what it amounts to?
Well, they seem to it's a company in Europe and Netherlands, I think. I guess they manufacture a certain amount for each launch or each version, and then they open it up for sale. So it's kind of, they're only doing it based, I guess, on the commitment they have for manufacturing. So they only let a certain number of people purchase them each time. So I don't know.
For purposes of the town council, though, does it seem right that we just point to this as a success that we've had with the loaners that we already have, and that we're going to continue doing it? Is that enough? Or do you think I should be specific about which one comes next?
Well, I think we need to have a budget for it, even though we don't have to specify per se exactly what it is, but we do need to have a number associated with the whole thing, the demo, but budget line.
Well, I think we've had in the past, I can't recall exactly, but a few $1,000s kind of budget for it. So that could be enough for most of these things, but it might not be enough if we're going to, let's say we wanted to buy 3 e-bikes and make those available through the library or something. I mean, I just made that up, but that's way more money. So are e-bikes in the mix such that I should point to the fact that we might want to do something more expensive?
I would say not, because unless you're just gonna set it up to have 4 of them for a family to go on an outing or something, I don't see practically how they would work, but I don't know, maybe someone would just have one to try it out or something. I don't know, it's a lot of money, the regular e-bikes, and then the Switch bike is specific for a certain size bicycle, so and requires retrofitting a bicycle, unless we supplied the bicycle, the regular bicycle, and then just retrofitted it. That might be a less expensive way to do it, but
For the e-bikes, I mean, my thought would be, if you're interested in buying one, you go to a bike store, try out different. I mean, you want to
yeah,
try,
all the different kinds, yeah.
so,
They'll let you ride it.
yeah.
You don't need to come to the library to get one.
I
Okay.
will tell you from a risk management perspective, like every my entire body is just like starts to go into flames when you mention e-bike.
The library loans bikes. I mean, I don't know if you're just thinking of people falling on a bike, but the library has a bike loan.
Well, they loan all sorts of dangerous stuff like backup power batteries and
There's something about the e-bikes though, that throttle mode, it can be a little dangerous. I agree with Brandy on this.
And what was it? The guy from The Voice? I don't know. The guy from The Voice, or I forget that show. He did himself a number with one, but yeah.
I have a question about Emporia View. What, I don't know what that is.
Ah, you didn't read the newsletter.
Oh, sorry, busted.
No, that's okay. Yeah, we did mention that, but when we were talking.
I
about
bought one recently. I have to go
Okay.
install it. But
What is it?
Wait, which thing did you get?
the smart home, it's the one with the 16 different
that's-
sensors that you attach to your sub panel.
Oh, okay, that's the advanced thing. The
Yeah.
basic, you just plug it in the wall and it reads your smart meter wirelessly. The thing about that though is you need to call like PG&E to get them connected to your smart meter, and that's, I don't, maybe it'd be okay. Everyone can. I don't know how it works to like go install it like in one place and another place and another.
There must be some type of reset on it, don't you think?
Yeah, they're also only like $40. So I guess, I mean, that might be an idea for the giveaways.
Mhm. Okay, so I think I understand what to say on item 5. Item 6, we are going to participate in the fair. The giveaways, was there a specific notion of what we might give away? And do you think like
I think we talked about,
this Emporia View?
yeah, well, yeah, maybe either like the thing that reads your meter or like smart plugs, like power
Mhm.
monitoring smart plugs.
And those would be basically for anybody who wants it. So,
So here's the smart plugs that I got from Casa. I'm really happy with them.
You know, I tried the Casa ones and they they don't have, anyways, we don't need to get into it now. I didn't like them as much, but
But let's say-
Well,
or if we were prepared for what, 50 people to come by our thing, and how much, so how much,
so smart plug you can get for like under $10, let's say. So
so,
something like
okay, so yeah.
You might do Emporia View as a raffle. Again, I have a couple of them as a raffle or, you know, something like that. So you could have a couple just to raise interest in them and show them to people. You know, obviously can't afford to give them to everybody who stops by your booth.
my
I-
feeling
Is
about
the-
raffles is that probably we shouldn't do them. They're too much work
Yeah, okay.
and they're not as effective as you think they will be.
Yeah.
I also
So-
think because this is at the wildfire fair, the attendance will be way up over what happens at the town, you know, the smaller town things where, you know, less than half the people come by your table anyway. Because with the wildfire thing there, everybody's packed in there and there's a lot of people.
Mhm.
What is the
Do-
Emporia View, the simple version? What does that cost?
$40.
40.
that's the retail.
$40.
Do we need a giveaway? I mean, if we're all gonna be packed in the town center, the town hall, I think people are just gonna go from one booth to the next. I don't think there's any reason to
Yeah, I
necessarily.
think as an attractant, it doesn't seem like it's necessary. But if there was something that we could give away that if people used it, it would have a big impact, then of course you'd want only people to take it who would, you know, are going to follow through, and that's a little bit tricky.
I have another wild idea, but I'm not sure if the timing will work out. That the wildfire fair is on Earth Day, right? So we have.
Mhm.
Correct.
What if you had, if we could make the timing work, what if you gave whatever you decide to give away to people who could show you that they signed up for the home intel program? Like have that be an incentive, like they could sign up and show you, oh, look, I signed up, and then they got a free thing, and that could be an incentive to get them to sign up.
Oh, and so we would give them the item at this fair, or we would give it to them once they signed up?
Well, you could, I mean, I don't know, you could, I guess you would have to give it to them outside of the fair too, but you could have that be an easy way to give it to them at the fair, where they would show you that they signed up, but it would be kind of like a push. Maybe you only give them out at the fair. Maybe you
Yes,
say,
I think it's only at the fair.
if you sign up before this and you show it, then you get this at the fair.
How would we advertise that to people before the fair?
The same
mean-
way you do that, your tips.
Yeah, the tips, I mean,
I
in
see.
that we can do
Oh,
through
okay.
all of the channels, the newsletter, the green events letter, like every,
Oh, okay. that's a-
Facebook, Twitter, all of it.
And it would have to be limited, I would say the first 25 people or something.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you guys decide as far as your budget. I mean, you have $1,000 for a raffle or giveaway.
Oh, so first 100 people, I don't know.
Okay, well, that sounds interesting. All right, so I think we're gonna get into specifics of the planning for the wildfire fair. That's a great idea. I think for purposes of my giving a sort of update to the town council, I think I have what I need there. The movie nights, I think I can say that we're considering the possibility of instituting movie nights. We had them in the past, I think, and we might do it again. What is the school bus? We're gonna buy a school bus?
I brought that up relaying input from David Cardinal in the
Uh-huh.
community.
Yeah.
He had mentioned it to me as something that he thought our committee should be focused on because of just observing how many cars are in the line dropping kids off on and off at school, and the emissions from that.
Yeah. True. I mean, that's a massive undertaking though to
Yeah.
set that up. I mean, we could,
Lobby for it. with the
we could
school
lobby
district.
for it. We could make a case for it. We could help do an analysis of, whether it makes sense or not, but I mean, I don't
It's
think,
usually done by the
I can
school
ask for the
districts,
budget.
not by the towns.
what's
And the
that?
school district eliminated it because they
School
didn't have the money
districts.
for it.
Yeah, school districts usually run school buses, not towns.
Yeah. Okay, all right, great. So I think I have what I need for that. That meeting is, it's open, and if others from the committee want to join, that would be wonderful. It's the town council meeting that takes place. Let me just stop sharing.
Can you email me that piece of paper so I can include it in the notes?
Definitely. I was just gonna look at the date.
Would you email it to me as well, Scott, for the council, for Melvin, for the council priorities?
Sure. Yeah, this town council meeting is on the evening of 7:00 PM on the 25th, Wednesday, the 25th. And so it'll be, listed on the town website, and the Zoom coordinates will be there. So I probably will participate by Zoom, I guess. But if anybody else wants to join, that'd be great. You can.
So it's next Wednesday, so it's actually the town council meeting.
Correct.
Mhm.
It's
So I don't
the
know why they're
regular-
calling it a workshop, but committee
Yeah.
workshop, but
What's that?
You better hope that you're early on the agenda, or else, it might be 11 PM.
Yeah. Right. Okay, let's, what we have next is, oh yeah, okay, this could be a big one, maybe it isn't, but finalizing our inputs to the safety element. So, we had the first revision of the safety element. We took a look at that. We asked a bunch of questions. They came back with their FAQ presumably people have had a chance to digest that. I guess the question then is, what additional things do we want to convey to the safety element? So, and we could put the safety element up and sort of scan through it sequentially in terms of the items that they already developed and see whether we have any tweaks or additions. Is that a good way to do this? Or do people already know what they think and whether they have inputs?
I just have one, maybe it's comment. Yeah, I mean, so I had laid out a bunch of these questions and I thought all their replies kind of made sense. And the only one that was sort of kind of left open is that I felt that actually 5, 6 or 7 of the policies that were laid out were not really specific to climate change and were more about like emergency management or disaster planning or
Mhm.
something. And perhaps those should move to like a different section
Hmm.
in the safety element. And they, in their response, seem like, you know, are still open to that. I mean, they kind of put it there for now, but if we think that it should be moved, that they would be receptive to that.
Yeah,
So I kind of still felt that they probably should be.
should move them to other sections.
It's, yeah, just because to me, they're not like
They're not
specific.
specific.
And,
Yeah,
and, you know, if you want, we could go through them and see what people feel.
sure. Okay, we can do that. Any other high level views of things that are needed for the safety element beyond what's already there?
I mean, I felt they addressed all of our original concerns pretty well.
Whatever happened, Rebecca, like in addition to the questions, it sounded like you had a bunch of edits or comments on the text and wording.
Right, yeah, I didn't hear back about that, so I don't sure where that is.
Yeah, I wonder if they got that.
Well,
Was that
yeah,
sent along with this?
well, I
or-
think Brandy and Melvin did get that. I mean, I think there was some confusion around what we submitted at one point, but then Brandy, did you have those suggested edits from Rebecca, right?
So I was not leading the effort with the safety element. So I can check in with Melvin and make sure he has your edits, Rebecca, but that was under his purview. I was like kind of providing feedback as a staff member in that process, but I will check with him. I'll add it to my list, or I'll just email him right now.
I mean, I guess probably if, you know, right now, I think we're formulating our official committee comments on them. And I guess those should go in there, right, if we wanted to communicate them. Yeah, in addition to whatever Rebecca sent before, if we have them as comments that we submit now, would be the right approach.
Yes, I guess, right. Right. What was confusing, I think, to them, perhaps this last round, was that they had asked for a set of clarifying questions. And we sent maybe clarifying questions and a bunch of edits. And so it just wasn't the right timing, perhaps. So yes, I think you're right. The edits right now, they should go back to them again and say, you know, we have these we want to make these suggested changes, and here are a bunch of edits to look at. Yes, perfect. Okay, so we have that version from Rebecca from previously, and then the question is, for these items, should we just walk through them? P72. I mean, that fits the description that you gave of it's not really climate change related.
Yeah, I mean, like I had said 72, 73, 74, 76, 77, 78, 79 are the ones that I flagged.
Yes. Well, what if, I
Well-
mean, if 74, if 72 said, prioritize the needs of vulnerable populations affected disproportionately by, hazards and disasters associated with climate change. Does that,
You could do that, but on the other hand, I don't know if we want, if broadly for the safety element, maybe we want this policy
Broad,
beyond just,
yeah.
just climate change disasters, right?
I wonder if they have put it in, I wonder if they've put it in all the other sections. Because
Not really.
really, that's interesting. Wonder why.
Well, right, as written, I mean, I think it applies to disasters broadly, but it just seems misplaced in the
Yes,
change section.
totally.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. Okay. So, so do we want to just stick, so which ones? You said P
So
72?
72, 73, 74. Those
74.
first three. Probably not 75. I guess that one was
That's
climate,
more
at least as
specific.
climate change in the wording.
Mhm.
And then 76, 7, 8, and 9. Which-
Yeah, they seem very broad.
So this is what they wrote. Many of the policies in respect to those particular P whatevers. Many of the policies in the climate adaptation section are intended to assist the town in anticipating new hazard conditions that could be exacerbated by climate change. Some of these policies may be emergency management related and could be moved. However, in this draft, the town felt the current location was appropriate. Based on committee review and comments, if it makes more sense to move a policy to another location, this can be accomplished.
Right.
So I don't, yeah, I don't know. I didn't read the whole document, so I don't know what they have under emergency planning. It's not really planning. Well, I mean, I guess it is sort of planning, but I mean, I don't personally have an issue with having it here, but
I don't either. I mean, they seem like things though that you would want to have apply more broadly. So the fact that they are here is a little bit odd. Seems a little odd. Unless they're already assumed to be, actually, I have no idea why they did that. So for
So-
example, where would,
Okay.
okay, so
Yeah,
P79 looks really, really general. It looks like it applies to the whole safety element, right? Post-disaster recovery. Could be a geological disaster, could be a wildfire disaster, could be a climate disaster. So where would they put that, I guess?
If you scroll down, the next section is emergency management. And
Mhm.
so I think I would put it there.
Emergency man down here.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
yeah, I mean, that one I would say, yeah, probably goes more into emergency planning, emergency preparedness. I'm not sure how it's under climate change adaptation and resilience is the title of our section.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think it's a fine, yeah, we should just tell them that's what we think, that to move it, right? And would all of the ones that you just mentioned be moved to that other section? Or do some of them go elsewhere?
That would be my, I mean, we don't have to be prescriptive about it, I guess I would say, but yeah, I mean, that,
Just reiterate the same thing that you said previously, that we still believe that they should look at placing them in somewhere that's. has a
yeah, I would
broader-
suggest emergency management, but if they
Okay.
want to restructure it some other way, that's also fine.
Okay. Okay. So, okay, so that's a concrete suggestion. So we have that, we have Rebecca's edits. What else is there that we want to provide?
So are we planning to move all of these ones that Lonnie has highlighted?
I think that was the idea. We would, but we'd specifically say that we think they would belong more reasonably in the emergency, was emergency management section. Obviously, they're gonna make their final decision anyway. They're not gonna, That's our input. Okay, did you have any thoughts, Anita, about changes for this?
Oh, I don't have anything to add on the, on.
Yeah, I don't either, really. I felt like they were, I was impressed by how broad broad a space they captured. And if anything, it seems like it's potentially too broad. It's like, you know, they're gonna have to do everything. And so, but I guess this is a policy thing. It's not the detailed plan or implementation. And so,
Well, you know, right, one thing I guess I learned from their response was that some of these are to support the following effort of developing the climate, what do they call it? Well, there's the climate action plan, but adaptation. plan.
Adaptation,
Yes,
yeah,
um,
which gets much more specific, I guess.
Right.
Okay.
Well, the question is whether the resilience is more related for future things related to emergency preparedness, or should be part of this climate adaptation section. So I'm looking at P76, require capital projects in high hazard areas to adhere to higher standards to reduce future potential hazard vulnerability. And PA 76-2 says identify appropriate resilience strategies. So I'm not, I mean, to me,
Yeah.
that should be more part of sustainability, because you're having to identify what those risks are. That's less about emergency preparedness, which would take effect after we have defined the risks.
Mhm. P76 is of that character, but also is P75. Ensure infrastructure can accommodate changing conditions and effects associated with climate change. P75 wasn't in
That
your
wasn't
list,
on my
right?
list. Yeah,
Okay.
and yeah, I think you're right. P76 doesn't necessarily seem like emergency preparedness, but I mean, I think it's also not specific to climate change, right? You would want it to apply to, I mean,
You'd want to what?
you would want it to apply to any of the hazards that we have, geologic, wildfire, even if they're not climate
Yeah.
change related.
Yeah.
And they don't have any of that in the emergency preparedness or geologic about planning for geologic, like for earthquakes or landslides?
Let's see, capital projects. Let's just see if, I mean, they would presumably so they don't. I mean, they don't have that very phrase, which is, you'd think that they might just have replicated that phrase elsewhere in the document for, as it relates to geological, but it looks like no. In fact, this capital projects in high hazard areas is specific to us. So that seems odd.
So do we make a recommendation that they include this in every single section?
Well, I think our comment could just be that it doesn't seem to fit in our section, that it's not specific to climate change, and then I don't
And-
know if we need to tell them how to
I
solve
think
it.
we could just say, and it seems odd that the same thing wouldn't apply to geologic hazards and wildfire hazards,
Right.
and let them decide what to do with that. Okay, so 76 is a different response than the other ones that you listed.
I mean, it could be a different response, or we could just take the group of these and say, these don't seem specific to climate change. They could probably go in emergency management and or other sections. right?
Could just do that. Yeah, that would be fine too. Just keep them all lumped together rather than trying to be too prescriptive about what to do with them. Does that make sense, Rebecca?
Well, I think for a lot of them, yes. 77, I mean, for sure, strengthen emergency management capacity and coordinate with emergency management, that totally doesn't belong with that. That's exactly what emergency preparedness does.
Well, A77-4, you know, then it's cooling centers for extreme, no, actually, so, were you talking about 77?
Yeah,
If you look down, in
P77.
there, if you look down in the details, it does say climate change impacts, cooling centers for extreme heat events. I mean, the sub bullets are more specific
right,
to
yeah,
climate change.
yeah, so I don't know, it's hard to. Seems like
So
it should be
maybe
coordinated
they
with,
have, maybe they have the general statement in several of the other areas and they have it also in yours with the specifics, the examples being specific, because they understand that it's across many of these areas. I don't know, but that might
That
make
would-
sense. There's often a lot of redundancy in these things.
It doesn't seem to be the case, though. I mean,
Okay.
if you look for strength in emergency.
Yeah, if you look for
management,
strength, then it's like, we're the ones with strength then.
Okay.
so what, I don't really understand the purpose of the safety element. We created, and then who does this? Who strengthens the emergency management capacity and coordinates with San Mateo County Department of Emergency Management? Who in the town? Is this part of a town admin? Is it part of the town?
I would think it's this staff and city council that have to do this. Is that right, Brandy?
Yeah, it's staff. I mean, it's staff led by Jeremy. I mean, it's probably will fall on the assistant town manager and Jeremy.
And Public Works, some of this is Public Works.
I mean, I think it's used to like kind of prioritize and create new programs in some cases, right?
Yeah, as a guiding document.
Okay, well, so let's just go through, I'm sorry, let's go through them one time sort of carefully. P72, I think we decided it's broad and what did we decide for it?
So sort of saying, just saying associated with climate change, adding that to the priority. Prioritize the needs of vulnerable populations affected disproportionately by hazards and disasters associated with climate change, since it's under our.
I think that solves it. Yeah, I think that makes it specific to this section. And then if they want to have something similar in other sections, fine. If they don't, fine, right? I mean, we'll take it.
I guess I feel as a policy, right? I think I already said it, but it seems like we would want to do this independent of the type. For all hazards and disasters, right? I mean, why would we not?
That's
Why only like climate change related hazards? and disasters?
Why only what? I'm having trouble hearing you, Ronnie.
I mean, it seems like we would want to prioritize the needs of vulnerable populations for all types of hazards and disasters, right? Not only for climate change related hazards and disasters.
So either we put associated with climate change and the section stays here, or we qualify and say this priority needs to be put in the other sections as well.
That's kind of irrelevant whether
I
it's
still,
caused by climate change or not. Prioritizing the needs of vulnerable populations affected by hazards. I mean, I wouldn't want somebody to sit and parse why the hazard occurred before coming up with a plan to take care of folks.
Yeah. Why don't we make it why don't we have a two-pronged response? One, we make it more specific to climate change and it's in our section. And two, we point out that this really belongs elsewhere too, doesn't it?
I agree, but back to Rebecca's comment, what's going to happen with this after it gets approved? Who's going to do something about this? Because it seems like if there's something that that's associated with sustainability that we need to do something about, then we need to decide what hazards and disasters are climate change caused. You know, that's why I think that the statement is a needs to be a general statement, and somebody needs to come up with a list of potential hazards and disasters and how they can affect the most vulnerable populations, and how we can mitigate that, how somebody can mitigate that, how that can be mitigated. But it feels like it's irrelevant what caused it. I mean, almost everything, floods and fires and, well, not earthquakes, but floods and fires in any case are certainly climate change caused, but why does that matter?
I mean, I
would
think
say
part of the reason why all these are in here is because the title is climate change adaptation and resilience. So all this is related to resilience, less so about climate change adaptation. So that's, I think, why they've kind of made it more general. I don't think they're saying climate change resilience. I think they're just saying generally resilience.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I agree. I don't understand the next step on this. So that makes a difference for me.
Okay, so.
I still have the feeling it can move to emergency management.
So what? I can't hear.
I
What?
still have the feeling it can move to emergency management.
I agree.
So for the ones, I guess going back to the sort of the starting point, Ronnie, for the ones that you identified, just if we say these appear more general, not specific to climate change, and many of them seem to apply, seem relevant to other types of disasters and hazards. We think you should consider moving them, either making them, putting them in a different section, or making them, umbrella things that apply to everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Depending, right? Is that,
You think about earthquakes, they're similar hazards and similar, it needs to be thought through in the same way.
yeah,
The
it does.
lack of electricity, gas being shut off, things that are going to happen with an earthquake are very similar to things that are going to happen with fires and floods.
Yeah. So,
Okay, so P72, P73. What's the next one that we're recommending that it get moved to? Emergency preparedness. Sorry, my throat keeps going out.
well, P74 belongs in emergency, I think, right?
P74.
I mean, 73 and 74. I mean,
Okay,
I think kind of like Scott just said, I mean, maybe we just make more of a general statement that they don't seem specific to climate change. Consider moving them either emergency management or reorganizing to have them apply broadly or something like that.
Yeah, and leave it to them to make that decision on item by item. That sound reasonable?
Yes.
okay, so it's for these specific ones that have been called out here. 72, 73, 74, 76, 78, 79.
And 77, well, 77, I guess,
Sub bullets of
yeah,
77
I
are
guess
pretty.
77 was different because of the sub bullets. I mean, the P77, it seems like would apply to all types of hazards, right?
Yeah,
Would do what?
Would apply to all types of hazards, the P77.
but the sub bullets under it though, if it's, if you don't take the P77, the green part alone, and you say, well, it's really the red items, then those are climate change specific.
Number 2, 3, and 4. Number 1 is also general.
That's true. Yeah.
So, okay, the P77 is too broad for sustainability, for climate change. But the A, what did the A stand for? Action. the actions are specific, are okay for,
Actions 2, 3, and 4, A77-2, 3, and 4.
2, 3, and 4 are relevant for climate change.
Mhm.
Is that what you want?
Yeah, sounds right.
And then, did we do 76 already? Yes. So 76 we're recommending we move it, and then the last one was what?
Did you have 78 and 79?
No, I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, those are.
78, continue to promote the community emergency response team CERT program to strengthen, well, this is, yeah. This seems emergency preparedness.
Yep. So does 79.
And prepare the tent for post-delivery recovery. Yeah, 78, 79. Let me put that down. 78 and P79 should be moved to emergency preparedness. Right?
Mhm.
So only P77, and it needs to be kind of rewritten. Okay, are there any other comments besides my, so I'm just looking at what my comments were, besides the verbiage in the beginning where they had stuff that was a little confusing. Well, I mean, it's just stuff that I didn't think was accurate, because they wrote, for example, Bayside climates are generally warm and sunny, particularly in the summer months when hot air from the valleys pulls the prevailing cool ocean breezes. No, from what it was, right, sorry. Bayside climates are generally warm and sunny, particularly in the summer months when hot air from the valleys moving to the coast warms the prevailing cool ocean breezes. I didn't consider that accurate. I think it should say Bayside climates are generally warm and sunny, particularly in summer months when hot air in the valley pulls the prevailing cool ocean breezes over the Bay Area.
Sounds like.
I don't know, it's probably complex to be thinking about this verbally as opposed to reading it. Because, the reality is San Francisco is not warm and sunny in the summer. It's foggy because of the hot, dry air in the valley, pulling the water-laden cool ocean breezes to the east, passing over the city and the bayside. No one's going to be able to persuade me that Half Moon Bay is warm and sunny in the summer, or hasn't been in the past. So something is a little off for here.
Did you, that is in your edits and your?
Yes. Yeah, no, I just have other little edits here.
Yeah, I think you should I would just give them all those edits directly and,
I mean, is it anything substantive that we should review, or I don't know? Kind of.
No, I mean.
Okay.
So the process, I guess, they had wanted our feedback before this meeting, like 3 days ago. So I guess that means we ought to try to get this to them pretty soon. Rebecca, do you think you can pull that together in the next day or so?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the other stuff I wanted to add was more of a P81. This goes back to the idea of whether this safety element is, how specific it is, and these might be just too specific for the purpose of a safety element. But P81 is monitor drought conditions and enact appropriate measures to reduce water demand in coordination with local and regional water providers. And the only action is to continue to collaborate with town advisory bodies, committees, in conjunction with the town's water service provider to identify opportunities for water conservation and efficiencies. And I felt that we also should consider adding another action that said collaborate with San Mateo County Environmental Health on new gray water regulations modeled on those in Arizona and New Mexico. I thought we should be collaborating as a third item action, collaborate West Bay Sanitary District on sewer reclamation projects. And the fourth one, continue to encourage drought tolerant native landscapes. I don't know if those are too specific or if we should have something like that in there.
I think it's good.
Yeah, I do too.
I agree, and I think it's fine to be specific because if you don't call it out, it will get forgot. You know, if you call it out, it'll spur thinking later on. But if you don't call out the specifics, it will never be thought of.
And actually, I would also add to my second one where I say collaborate with San Mateo County Environmental Health on new gray water regulations. I would also coordinate with San Mateo County Environmental Health on composting toilets. I mean, that's looking way in the future when we have no water. So I don't know if that's the sort of thing we should also include in there. You know, that idea of, you know, triggering a little. Because the reality, you know, as we talk about ADUs, the cheapest way and the most quickest way is to allow tiny homes. And the simplest way with tiny homes on wheels is to have most of them have composting toilets in there. So all of a sudden for $100,000, someone can park a tiny home right in their driveway or, you know, on their side yard, and you've got a housing for, you know, a very low income person in a snap, you know, within a few months. So we really need to start thinking about that kind of idea.
We know they're not going to allow the things on wheels, but. the
Why not?
composting
Why
toilet-
not?
Well, that's a different issue, but the compost, I'm trying to separate out composting toilets. If we get that on the, you know, the agendas somewhere, ADUs, you know, on foundations, they wouldn't, you know, if they're at the other end of the property, they don't need the sewer taken all the way down. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
there are real advantages and economies to using them even without thinking about the tiny home thing.
Yeah. So what about collaborate with San Mateo County Environmental Health on new gray water regulations and composting toilets modeled on those in Arizona and New Mexico? I don't even know if we need that, but how does that sound?
That sounds like a good addition.
Sure. Yeah.
And then P82, you caught that. That was just an error, stormwater instead of wastewater. That I think Brandy and company caught that already. And then under P83, which these are all really key for sustainability and climate change, identify the major sources of greenhouse gas emissions in the town and opportunities to reduce them. There are currently only 2 action items: develop a climate action plan that identifies the most impactful measures for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and action 2, work with the town advisory bodies, committees, utility providers, regional partners to identify and develop programs and incentives that support these measures. So again, it comes down to, do we need to go a little bit more specific, such as a third item, expand electrification of homes in the town through education programs and incentives. Number 4, expand on-site solar, wind, and renewable energy generation and battery storage. 5, expand electrical vehicle expansion and evaluate charging infrastructure.
I think this is a policy statement, and I would think that because it refers to a climate action plan, isn't that where those other things would get enumerated?
I guess I don't exactly know what's in a climate action plan, all the details. So if these things are all in there, then yeah, I guess we wouldn't need to reiterate them.
Is that, Brandy, would those things that Rebecca just mentioned be in a climate action plan?
Yes, I mean, if you all decide that they will be in them, I mean, the climate action plan includes measures like, for example, increasing, you know, EV charging uptake, and then actions on how you're going to do that. But normally most of that you want the actions to have a measurable impact on greenhouse gas emissions reduction so that you can quantify what those actions are going to do to reach your target. So yes, I mean, they would be included if you know, if you all decide to include them and the council does and they have measurable impacts and all of that.
Seems like that's where they belong. They belong there more than they do in this. I mean, I think they're good, but they're very specific, and there are a lot of them. I mean, we could come up with, you know, dozens. So,
Yeah, I mean, this is more guiding, this is, I mean, A83-1 is more sort of solidifying that a climate action plan needs to be developed. It doesn't need to include things that will be in it to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions.
Okay, all right, I'll take
I
those out
guess.
then. And then, let's see, P84 was address climate change impacts and develop adaptation strategies that focus on fire prevention and protection, flooding and severe storms, extreme heat events, public health, and the health and adaptability of natural systems. And then that has one action: develop a climate adaptation plan for the town. The question is whether we also put in there that second action: develop local renewable energy generation and storage for the town to build energy resiliency.
well, that again could be in the climate adaptation plan, I guess. It's a specific thing. I don't know, Brandy, would that go in a climate adaptation plan?
Yeah, that would. I mean, that would, because that would go to climate. That would, I mean, I'm not sure which one. I'm not sure I know fully. Like for me, climate adaptation is like building a barrier wall to mitigate the impacts of sea level rise. What you just described, Rebecca, to me is, well, I guess if it's improving, can you say it one more time? I'm sorry.
Develop local renewable energy generation and storage for the town to build energy resiliency.
I mean, see, that does, yeah, I mean, that is. That is a climate, so that would be a specific measure that I think could be included in the climate adaptation plan. Because that doesn't specifically, the way you've come at it is for energy resiliency. If it was to, I mean, a lot of these things have co-benefits, right? Because doing that means you're probably using more battery storage, which means you're using less energy from the grid, which means you're reducing greenhouse gas emissions, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, that's one of those things that could probably go in both. But the way that you framed it, it would go in a climate adaptation plan.
Okay, so I'll keep track of these outside of this document so that then when we review the climate adaptation plan, we can make sure that they somehow show up there or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, and if you want, I mean, I can create a document on SharePoint on OneDrive that, you know, is in our climate action plan folder there, and I could give you access to it so you can just put notes on there, and then they live somewhere that the town has, you know, if I'm not there anymore.
Well, as long as it doesn't create a Brown Act violation, because I don't know how many people within, because we've already got Scott and Jay, right, are planning to work on climate adaptation.
Oh, right, that's 3. Let's keep it, you just keep it then and don't, you know, yeah, that's a good point.
Well, I can provide it to Scott and then Scott can.
Yep, exactly.
And so then I had that question of, is the safety element only for immediate safety problems? Do we not want to also focus on reducing greenhouse gas emissions as much as possible to reduce the effects of even more severe climate change in the future? So yeah, that was my impression. That was my original impression, and probably should have posted that as one of the questions before. I got the impression when I read all this that it was more dealing with these sort of emergency things, which is why we ended up taking them all out and putting them in the emergency preparedness for more immediate things, versus it seems very little seemed to be focused on greenhouse gas reduction, but.
That was in our question number 1, right?
What do you mean question number 1?
The questions that we sent.
Oh, right. Okay, right. All right. So we did include it. I forgot that. Yeah. Okay.
So I want to be cognizant of the time. It's 9:08 and it's later than most of our meetings. So we want to, I think we want to, I don't want to truncate things if we've got to cover some more stuff, but.
No, that's it for me.
That, okay. The other item that is really fairly critical to talk about, and maybe it can be quite short, is the En-ROADS simulation tool. So I talked to Steve Levin, and Steve Levin is game to do this on a townwide basis. And I want to give a caveat or two about that conversation, but we looked at the calendar for February and arrived at, there were only a few dates or evenings when there weren't other town committees or activities. And February 21st was what we came up with as an open evening that when we could do this with the town.
In the evening?
So yeah, 7 o'clock. And I presume that, would that be in this, it wouldn't be in this room, it would be in the community hall, is that right? Bigger space?
Yes, I would think so, yeah.
So we need, I mean, there's planning for that. We've got to figure out pretty quickly what we want to say about it, how we're going to advertise it, whether we're going to have refreshments, blah, de, blah, de, blah. I don't think we have the time to do that tonight as a group. And so I think maybe we need to have a subcommittee that will be empowered to just go off and do it, because we don't really, we have another meeting, but it's only like a few days before February 21st. So we're not going to get any, it's going to have to be done offline basically. So I'm willing to help with that, you know, come work with Steve on the announcement and, you know, work with Rebecca on getting the announcement out and such. We could, you know, in the decision about whether to have refreshments, you know, et cetera, et cetera. There's some stuff to figure out. Yes, Brandy.
I can talk offline, but I just wanted to, there's like some like official channels that all of that stuff has to go through. And I just wanted to see who you spoke with to make sure that the date was available.
I spoke with no one. I spoke with the town calendar.
Okay, no, so you have to, I'll cue you into, yeah,
Okay.
this reminds me that we probably at the committee workshop need to mention some things about event planning. So I will hook you up with the folks that you need to be hooked up with, because there could be private events that are happening or classes.
Oh my God.
Yep, so
Thought I covered all.
so
those.
glad I asked.
Not, so. Okay.
Yeah, I'll loop back with you offline.
Okay. All right. So maybe it isn't February 21st, but let's assume it is. If it were February 21st, we'd only have a few days for, prior to that at our next meeting. So I still think if maybe it's not going to be until June, but in any case, does it still make sense to have a subcommittee do this and basically work all the details? I think it does, but that, and if there is a subcommittee, who would be on it? I volunteer. Does somebody else want to be on the En-ROADS simulation event subcommittee? I would welcome anybody who wants to participate. Nita, you're muted, but your hand is up. I assume that means yes.
I said yes with my hand.
All right, awesome. Anita and I will do it. So we'll be the subcommittee and we'll pull it off. The only caveat, the only thing to tell you, so I reinforced to Steve that we liked the first half of the work that he did with us. The second half was a bit too focused on a particular organization and on a particular set of actions. He saw that, he was fine with that. He thinks it's really important in an event like this for people to have some sense of direction of what they can do in terms of an action, a way to respond, which I think is legitimate. And so he wondered about the possibility of you know, laying out several different organizations and opportunity possibilities, not, and more of a soft sell and more diffuse in term, not his organization and getting behind that. So how do you feel about there being some portion at the end of things one can do?
I think
Yeah.
it's also about the balance, I guess, of, you know, time. I mean, if it's like 10 minutes at the end or something, that
Yeah,
probably appropriate.
reasonable.
But
Yeah.
if it's like half of the presentation, that
Yeah.
sounds like too much.
Okay. I mean, that would be a way to bound it pretty, you know, if it's not just his organization and it's limited to 10, 15 minutes, then I think it'll probably take care of itself at that point. Is that true in terms of this committee's feedback?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you feel the need to see a preview of that material before it is presented to the public? Or just give him that charter and let him do it?
I think we might want to supply him with a few bullet points.
Okay. Yeah. Who could help draft? Rebecca, would you want to draft those bullet points?
I could think of stuff, I guess.
Okay. I mean, I think probably maybe would be, those bullet points would be additive with what he.
Yeah, I mean,
up with.
obviously,
Yeah,
joining his organization is one of them, but then there's
Yeah.
other
I think that'd be great.
organizations.
if we could seed his talk with a few additional ideas of our own, that would be great. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. Okay, so it may be February 21st, maybe it won't be. And I'll let people know as soon as Brandy and I confer and I get my wrist slapped. And
What day is February 21st?
it's a Tuesday. I think Tuesday is the only evening on the calendar when there isn't anything, unless you want to go for a Friday night, but that didn't
Well,
seem.
Parks and Rec moved to Tuesdays, but I don't know which week of the month. so.
Yeah, okay, so, yes, so, and refreshments, yes, people feel like we should do that? Or not?
It's a 2-hour thing.
Yeah,
I think maybe just something to drink and cookies. I mean, you know.
yeah,
just
like
something-
cookies and juice and water kind of thing.
or
Yeah, simple. Okay, I like that. Not coffee and tea and all that stuff. That would be, that's too much work.
Not dinner.
Okay, all right. So the last item is to think about. the
So
next
just
meeting.
a real quick, sorry, it will
Sure.
be, it will all be in person, right? There's not going to be an offering of remote or anything.
So if you wanted to do remote, what you would if you wanted to do a hybrid event, you could do it in the schoolhouse like you're doing this meeting.
This might actually be the right size room. I mean, I think, it's, I don't imagine 100 people showing up. It's probably going to be 15 people. If, if a good turnout's going to be 20 people, right? 25 people. So,
Right.
and that would work in here. And so then we could do it hybrid, and why not? I mean, there's no reason not to do it hybrid.
His presentation to us was really easily understood online, so.
Yeah.
I would-
Yeah. I mean, it'll be better for people to be here live, but I think, if somebody can't do that and they want to join, then that's good. So yeah, why don't we do it in here? Okay.
Okay,
Just so you know, I say that being completely out of the loop on how the events work now, but at least you'll know to request that. And I'm going to send you everything right now, Scott, that you need. And I have prevented you from getting your hand slapped because the horse has not left the gate yet.
Yes. Yes, that's true. It hasn't been announced on PV Forum yet, so we're okay. All right. So for next meeting, I think it's probably time to talk about the wildfire planning, because that's going to be in April, right? And this next meeting is in February, so that'll still give us some time to figure out what we're doing. That was one thing. The home intel talk, if that person, James, can come, would happen next time. One thing people had, that was also on the list was other devices for the loaner program. Do we want to have a separate conversation about what devices we want to go for next?
Okay.
Okay. What else would go on the, what else would go on the agenda for next time? Anything?
Well, we sort of need to sync up about the inroads thing.
Yeah, yeah, it'll be on there. We'll definitely an update on how that's going. Sure. Okay. All right. If somebody feels we're done, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
All right. Anybody opposed to adjourning?
No.
Everybody's in favor of adjourning. Okay. Thank
Aye.
you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks.
And Scott, please send me that,
I will, and I'll send it to Brandy too tonight. Yeah. Okay. See ya. Thanks.
all right, thank you.
Bye. End of the meeting.
Hybrid worked okay, actually.
Yeah.
That's fine.